from a station working for you. This is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, the Indianapolis Library is closing the book for now on 1 day of public operations. The reason behind the decision and how long it could last. And a Social Security scam makes an ugly return. What you need to know so you don't become a victim. Chris.
Topping our lineup today, you may feel unqualified to leave an industry hit hard by the pandemic to one that's hiring, but we have a new tool that can help you fight the uncertainty. And there's a nationwide ban on evictions, but that's not stopping landlords from starting the eviction process. The challenges that renters face with the court system that has largely gone virtual. And getting access to your medical records could be getting easier. The change that you may notice with your healthcare provider starting today.
Now, first at 5:30, the Indiana National Guard is now deployed inside nursing homes across the state. 400 soldiers are working to help stop the spread of COVID-19 in long-term care facilities. Guard members got training last week at Camp Atterbury to learn about everything from registration and testing to infection control, procedures, and visitation protocol. The Guards men are now in 133 long-term care facilities as of today, the ones hardest hit by the pandemic. And throughout the month, they will expand to 1,350 guardsmen at all of the state's more than 500 nursing homes. Nursing home residents make up nearly 60% of the state's COVID-19 deaths. Facilities have also struggled with staffing shortages and the growing list of testing and reporting requirements, which is why the state is sending in the National Guard to help. The Indianapolis Public Library is making schedule changes due to the increased spread of coronavirus. All branches will now be closed on Sundays. Effective Wednesday, the library will temporarily discontinue Sunday hours and all locations will shift Tuesday hours from noon to 8. Currently, 9 of the locations are open on Sundays. Library leadership hopes extending the hours on Tuesdays will help offset the Sunday closures for some patrons. The library says closing on Sundays will reduce cross-branch staffing. So starting Wednesday, all branches will be open Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Tuesdays, noon to 8 p.m. The Central Library will observe the same hours but close at 5 on Fridays and Saturdays. It's anticipated the schedule will stay in place until at least the end of the year. Kevin.
Amanda, it's been a cool but sunny day, and that is the way we're putting the finishing touches on this evening. If you're only listening to us right now on TV, it's time to stare at the TV for a second. Love this. This is out in Putnam County, and you can see the sun right on the horizon, going, almost gone. 5:41 is when the sun sets. 46 in Indianapolis. Kokomo and Bloomington right in there. Notice the wind direction. That's the key to keeping temperatures a little warmer tonight, but again, it's going to be cold. The temperature trend as we go through the evening hours, dropping as we get past midnight, dropping into the 30s. Once again, should be about 36 at 7 a.m. There are the morning low temperatures expected. That's the temperature from which we'll turn the corner quickly, because during the day tomorrow, we should make it above 60 for an afternoon high. That will give you a little extra motivation as you head out to the polls, whether it's during a lunch break from work or it's going to be a long morning for you, whichever way you choose to do that. It should be comfortable. No weather issues tomorrow. Amanda?
Well, what happens if you want to vote in person, but you've tested positive for COVID or you're showing symptoms or you're quarantining?
So we really encourage these local election officials to have a way for any voter to vote, regardless of whether or not they have or have been exposed to COVID-19.
There are several options. For example, Tennessee has sites where you can cast your ballot distance from others.
So it might be a voting machine in kind of, another room over there. And if you're COVID positive and want to vote in person, then that's the place that you would go to make everybody feel safe.
We've seen a lot, but not all states trying to come up with alternatives. And this separate polling site location is a CDC recommendation, but it's not something we're seeing a ton of places do it.
Yeah. Other states like Kentucky have medical emergency ballots that you can request. Some states have curbside voting as well. Now, even though many people have already voted, you can still expect a big turnout tomorrow.
Because there's this real sense of, I need to see my vote go through the machine and know that it was counted.
So I think right now we are all dealing with an incredible situation, and how a voter chooses to vote really should be a personal decision.
Now, if you have questions about voting or you see any sort of problem taking place at the polls, this is the number you want to call, 1-866-OUR-VOTE. Legal experts will be standing by. COVID-19 cases are increasing at nursing homes. Weekly new COVID cases in the general population rose by 61% the week of October 18th. That's according to Johns Hopkins. Studies show that cases rise in nursing homes often when their communities are seeing a rise. 43% of new COVID cases in nursing homes are in the Midwest states, with major spikes in community spread. We have some new information about the risk of COVID-19 to pregnant women and their babies. A new study just released by the CDC looked at nearly 4,000 babies born to women with a COVID infection. It found that nearly 13% were preterm, born before 37 weeks. That is higher than the national estimate of 10%. Nearly 3% of the 600 babies had COVID. They were primarily born to women who had the virus at delivery. Now, you may be feeling uncertain about leaving an industry hit hard by the pandemic for another job. How a new tool can help you make the switch.
One of the worst phone scams in recent years has struck again, and one victim now wants to share the warning signs. Consumer reporter John Matarese spoke with a woman whose bank account was emptied, so you don't waste your money.
Social Security scammers are back at it again, and another woman has just lost thousands of dollars to this slick and frightening scam that everyone needs to know about. Jen Gissy tried to comfort her friend Kendra Fleischman after she just lost $4,000 to the Social Security scam.
Tragic, especially how hard it is these days with the COVID.
It all started with a phone call similar to this one.
Department of the Social Security Administration.
The so-called agent claimed Kendra's SSN was used in a crime.
Someone had rented a car with my Social Security number, and there was a bunch of drugs in the car. And
the caller said her social was now suspended.
Social Security number has been suspended for suspicion of illegal activity.
Charges would be brought against me.
The man told her to prove her identity by emptying her checking account,
or else it would be seized.
Then purchase $4,000 worth of Target gift cards at her local Kroger. Like so many other people who've been targeted by this scam, Kendra never had a chance to really think about what she was doing or ask a friend about it. That's because the caller stayed on the phone with her the entire time she was buying gift cards.
They had me on the phone the whole time telling me I couldn't say anything to anybody.
Nobody asked you any questions when you were buying these?
No. Seems like there should be some protocol that they should be alarmed by it.
But she was able to buy the cards and read off the numbers to the agent. The caller and her $4,000 then disappeared.
It pisses me off that these people can continue to do this.
Stores say clerks watch for this scam, but say when the victim's on the phone and won't talk about it, there is nothing they can do. As always, don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese, WRTV.
Layoffs could be coming for more businesses. In a new survey, 9% said they will let workers go in the final 3 months of the year. That is after avoiding staff cuts earlier in the crisis. 13% of firms say that they are planning restructuring this quarter, and that could result in layoffs. Now, if you're in an industry hit hard by the pandemic, you may be considering making a career change. Now, it can be hard to know where exactly to start, but we're helping you pivot in the third part of our hiring series. LinkedIn has a new tool that is called Career Explorer. You put in your most recent job. It shows you in-demand jobs that are a strong match with your skills.
When it comes to retail positions, soft skills, there's a lot of soft skills that are required in being in retail. And we know from hiring managers that soft skills are highly in demand right now, especially in a COVID world. Those are skills like communication, thought leadership, management. And we know that those are just as important to those hard skills.
LinkedIn found that people who have 5 or more skills on their profile are discovered by recruiters 27 times more.
You could have been on a team of servers that was a part of the restaurant that was the fastest growing restaurant in the area, that demonstrates the quality of the service. So you want to make sure that you really worried about the impact that you had on the role.
Now, if you're a food server, the career experts at LinkedIn say that you have 3/4 of the skills that you need to be a customer service specialist. It is one of the most in-demand jobs with similar skills like time management. All right, next in our lineup, landlords are starting the eviction process despite a nationwide ban on evictions. Renters face a court system largely gone virtual.
One of the areas of law where people self-represent the most is eviction cases and housing-related cases. So it's the worst court to have this happen in.
That is just one challenge that renters are up against. What you need to know about navigating the system. Millions of Americans will not be able to pay their rent this month. A flood of landlords filing evictions that was feared back in the spring has now started. Housing advocates for both tenants and landlords are desperate for solutions. Chris Conti takes a closer look at how the eviction process is playing out, even though there is an official nationwide moratorium.
I do think you're going to want in this new section, obviously, the COVID impact question somehow.
Grace Ross is drowning in paperwork. Literally, her office is filled with boxes overflowing with affidavits. The housing crisis in this country, she says, has taken on a life of its own.
We're talking about a long-term economic impact.
Grace runs an anti-foreclosure nonprofit where every day her team is fielding calls from people who have run out of money to pay their rent and are now facing eviction proceedings.
People are panicked. They're just, I think with the low-level panic that we're all running around COVID already, and then you add the fact that they're looking at elders who will die if they're on the street regardless of COVID, or children who won't be able to go to school remotely.
COVID cases are also spiking across the country, and Americans who are trying to quarantine at home to stay safe are in jeopardy of losing their homes.
Yeah, on a foreclosure deed, there's going to be the name.
Housing courts in many states are still closed, so eviction hearings, which happen before a family actually is forced to leave, have to be done via Zoom, which presents its own challenges.
One of the areas of law where people self-represent the most is eviction cases and housing-related cases. So it's the worst court to have this happen in. Hi guys, I'm back.
Grace is also an attorney. Before COVID, lawyers would often resolve cases without a judge getting involved. Now, though, eviction hearings are being drawn out because attorneys can't meet in person, adding another layer of complexity to the housing crisis.
I don't think our courts have begun to address what social science research shows, which is that nonverbals are critical. And you can't get justice, especially if you're self-represented. You don't know what's supposed to be happening in court.
Nearly 12 million adults live in households that missed their last rent payment. 23 million people have little or no confidence in their ability to make their next rent payment. It's not just renters. Landlords who make less than $50,000 a year are also being hit hard because they get most of their income from tenants' rent. The CDC has a ban through the end of the year on actual evictions, but that doesn't mean eviction hearings aren't going forward in court.
And that street-level economy is the one that is just collapsing under the weight of the COVID impacts in a million different ways.
A fractured economy struggling to heal in the middle of the pandemic. I'm Chris Conti.
Chris, thank you. And most states have nonprofits working to help renters on the brink of eviction. If you fall behind on your rent, talk to your landlord to see if you can work out some sort of plan. Keep copies of any important documents, including your lease. Reach out to a housing nonprofit in your area. They do typically provide free legal help.
It's hard not to stare at this. Let's go back to the setting sun. 5:41 is when it technically set, but obviously still a nice orange glow on the horizon. And those clouds, mainly cirrus clouds, add some real character to the sky. If I could do an oil painting, I think this would be a good one. Sunrise will be just as beautiful, by the way. Temperatures, they're in the 40s. They'll cool down rather quickly. 46 is the temperature in Indy. That's down 3 degrees from the afternoon high. Notice the humidity. 29%. The air's very dry, and when that happens, temperature's pretty elastic from morning low to afternoon high. You can have quite a temperature range. That wind out of the southwest at 12. Okay, most of the country is quiet. There are some lake effect snow showers in New York State and also in northwest Pennsylvania. For us, a big blue H on the map means that we'll have dry conditions for the next week. As that slides east across Alabama, then into Georgia and the Carolinas, our wind comes around to the southwest, and that's why we'll see this boost in our temperatures. The wind will be anywhere from 15 to 20 miles per hour during the day tomorrow, and that will boost our temperature from the 30s into the low 60s. As we get started, 7 a.m., about 36 degrees. Lunchtime temperature, upper 50s. Will settle to a 62-degree high temperature, as other temperatures around central Indiana on Wednesday end up a few degrees warmer. We could argue whether I should go a couple degrees warmer, but I don't like to argue, so let's just stick with about 66 for the high as we get to Wednesday. Warmer temperatures down the road after that.
Twitter has a plan to combat any early claims of election victory, saying it will place warning labels on tweets. The labels will say things like official sources called this election differently, or official sources may not have called this race when this was tweeted. Now, Twitter said it would consider state election officials and national news outlets that have independent decision desks as official sources for results. Now, bad actors are also gearing up for this election. Experts with cybersecurity company Check Point are warning today, tomorrow, and the days after the election that you could see some campaigns casting doubt on the accuracy and results.
You know, in contrast to previous elections where it's been about very targeted, looking to gain access to things, we really think from what we've seen from a research perspective that there'll be a larger attempt to create disruption versus anything else.
Check Point is warning of a flood of memes on social media. The bad actors plan to get so many people sharing them, the social media companies won't be able to take them down. Now, the goal is to spread false information and just create disruption. Check Point is sounding the alarm so people can educate themselves and not let these spread.
We even have some of our researchers and incident response folks have even seen some evidence or some type of reliable information where, regardless of who wins, there are certain meme themes that are going to be saying, hey, this is who the victor is, regardless of what the actual results are. To create this indecision, to create this division.
Now, you can report an image on any social media site and also make sure to only share credible sources on election information. Now, young people are notorious for skipping elections. It's a problem that voting advocates have tried solving for decades. This year, they had a big uphill battle mobilizing future voters virtually. Amanda Brandeis explains the new strategies with only hours left.
In a year defined by change.
Pre-pandemic, you and I would be interviewing in an event that we're hosting in this beautiful student union of ours.
It's no surprise the heart of campus is almost unrecognizable.
And we would have candidates talking to students, meeting students.
But rather than a buzzing home base for civic engagement, students are seated sparsely, working quietly behind masks.
That community engagement aspect is what's been changed a little bit. Looking at that and trying to figure out the best way that we can translate that into a digital format has not been easy.
Armando Sepulveda II is leading his school's effort to register as many students to vote as possible and up against a deadline.
We were going into the dark because we didn't have any pre-context on how we can handle a Rock the Vote campaign during a pandemic.
They couldn't hold large gatherings to register students to vote or hold candidate debates in large auditoriums. On-campus posters were replaced with posts online.
Social media was a great platform to get apathetic students because regardless of what they're doing in the day, they're probably going to log on to Instagram at least once or twice.
To keep students from scrolling past their message, they focused on design.
We wanted to make it as simple and visually interesting as possible because the more we make it digestible, the more people we're going to reach out to.
They replaced campus walkarounds with Zoom arounds, crashing club meetings to discuss propositions, how to get your ballot, and making sure it's counted.
Pre-dental society, the pre-law society, women in STEM, women in business.
They also held community forums online with local candidates.
I think a lot of young people want to have a renewed sense in trust in the government. But in order to have that, you have to have people that you trust elected.
They surpassed their goal of registering 1,400 students to vote, and now it's up to them to exercise that right. In San Diego, I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
Amanda, thank you. And researchers at Tufts University say that youth turnout is surging in many states right now. More than 7 million young people have already voted early or absentee this election. Now, still to come in our lineup, getting access to your medical records could be getting easier. The change you may notice with your healthcare provider starting today. More health systems are making it easier to access medical notes in your files online because of a new federal requirement. Today, the original deadline to comply Health officials issued a last-minute extension until April because of the pandemic. Now, if your health system is making that change right now, you will notice some more information in your patient portal, like clinicians' notes or consultation reports. Patients have always had a right to their medical records, but before you might have had to take some lengthy steps to request them or have to pay a fee. Now, a group working for more access says doctors are typically able to adjust fairly easily, and it can be really helpful for patients to read them.
And they're using that information to participate in their care, to make decisions, to do a better job with their medications. That's where we'll get to the benefit.
Patients can also use records to check for accuracy. In a study Open Notes found, about 1 in 5 patients found some significant errors. We were talking orders for therapy for the wrong body part or entirely different patients' notes on file. Some mistakes can affect care, and they are difficult to fix because records are a legal document.
You can't get it completely removed from your record, but there are steps that the organization can take to make sure that the right information is the information that's getting highlighted in the record.
Now, there are only a few exceptions to what you can access. That includes psychotherapy notes and anything the doctor thinks may cause physical harm to the patient. 4 years ago, one group of students used their high school civics lessons to accurately predict that Donald Trump would win. This year, thousands of students are taking part, and tomorrow the lessons that they are using to come up with their own predictions.
Temperature trend across central Indiana climbing. So the temperature this morning was as cold as 23 in Terre Haute. Look at the low tomorrow morning, 34. We make a little jump as we get to Wednesday. Thursday's at 48. The warmest temperature within the 7-day forecast for an overnight low is 56 degrees. Plan on 62 for your high tomorrow. That's all for the news at 5:30. There's more news starting right now.